The deepest need in human nature is the craving to be heard. Dale Carnegie. Have you ever spoken from the heart and felt invisible, as if your words vanished into thin air? Maybe you've tried to share something important with a loved one, a colleague, or even a stranger, and their eyes glazed over, their attention wandered, and you were left with a quiet ache. Did they even hear me? Or maybe you've sat across from someone, a parent, a partner, a friend, and watched them pour out their worries, only to realize you were more focused on your own reply than truly listening. We long to be heard, but how often do we truly listen? The art of being heard, and the even rarer art of hearing others, is at the heart of every real connection. Dale Carnegie spent his life exploring this invisible thread. He believed that understanding and appreciation were not just skills, but the foundation of trust, respect, and love. If you want to be interesting, he said, be interested. This story isn't about tricks or empty techniques. It's about the simple, often overlooked truth. The more deeply you listen, the more deeply you are heard. Let's explore what it means to tune in to others. And finally, to find your own voice echoed back with respect. Why do people hunger so much to be heard? Beneath every conversation, every gesture, there's a silent hope. Notice me. Understand me. Let my story matter. Dale Carnegie believed this was more than a wish. It was a fundamental need, as vital as food or shelter. He saw it in the way people leaned forward when someone listened, in the light that returned to tired eyes when a friend remembered a small detail, in the relief that softened a tight jaw when someone finally said, I see you. I get it. Think about daily life. In families, a child might tug at a parent's sleeve, repeating the same story until they get eye contact. Not just words, but full attention. In friendships, you'll see someone glance down, hesitate, or raise their voice ever so slightly when they feel ignored. At work, a colleague's frustration simmers beneath polite answers, growing sharper when they sense their ideas are dismissed. Even in a busy cafe, watch how people gesture. A hand on the heart, a nervous tap on the table, a forced laugh. Each movement is a code, a plea for validation. This longing to be heard shows up in the smallest exchanges. Someone interrupts not just to share their thoughts, but because they're desperate to be part of the moment. Others go silent, not because they have nothing to say, but because they're convinced no one will listen anyway. Carnegie warned, talk to someone about themselves, and they'll listen for hours. It's not about ego, but about recognition. The feeling that your life, your worries, your dreams are seen as real. How can you spot this need in others? Watch for the little cues. A person repeating a point, hoping you'll finally understand. Eyes searching yours for a flicker of empathy or agreement. A sigh after being interrupted, as if giving up on being understood. Restlessness, impatience, or even anger that flares when someone feels invisible. These signals are often missed, especially if we're distracted by our own stories. But when you learn to see them, when you put aside your phone, your next sentence, even your judgment, you notice that every human interaction is an invitation. Are you with me? Am I alone? Carnegie taught that the key to real connection isn't found in big speeches, but in the quiet attention that says, you matter. Sometimes, all it takes is a nod, a gentle question, or the patience to let someone finish. The world is filled with people waiting to be heard. The question is, will you listen, or will you just wait for your turn to speak? Carnegie understood that words are only part of the message. True listening happens in the silent territory between phrases, in the rise and fall of a voice, in a glance or a sigh. When dealing with people, remember you are not dealing with creatures of logic, but with creatures of emotion, he wrote. Most people, even when they speak of facts, are really sharing feelings, longing for understanding, carrying old wounds, quietly testing the world. Will you accept me, even like this? Watch any real conversation and you'll notice it's not just what's said, but how. The voice grows softer when someone shares a secret, or sharper when they fear being ignored. Joy sparkles in a quickened pace. Resentment lingers in clipped answers. Sometimes, a gentle smile can say, I forgive you long before the words arrive. Other times, a cold silence can wound more deeply than any insult. Psychologists say we are emotional transmitters, always broadcasting even when we don't mean to. The tone of our words, the tension in our posture, the timing of our replies. All these reveal the truth beneath the surface. A friend who talks quickly, barely pausing, might be covering nervousness or a fear of being dismissed. A parent who repeats the same advice may not just want a guide, but to be needed, to feel relevant. Even irritation can be a plea. Notice me. Take me seriously. Philosophers like Seneca have long argued that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. The anxiety you feel when misunderstood, the frustration when you can't reach someone, is often amplified by old memories, of times you weren't seen, of words left hanging in the air. We project these hurts forward, sometimes misreading even gentle feedback as criticism, or turning a neutral comment into a personal slight. Carnegie urged his readers to slow down and listen for the emotion behind the words. He would say, "Any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain, and most fools do. But it takes character and self-control to be understanding and forgiving." He believed that when you tune in to someone's feelings, you open a door, not just for them to be heard, but for you to be trusted. Ask yourself, when you speak, do you pay attention to the tremor in your own voice or the shadows in someone else's? Do you answer emotion with emotion, or do you fall into the easy habit of your subscription and comment aren't just numbers? They're signals that decide what video comes next. Share your thoughts or ideas in the comments. They often become the foundation for news stories. Interestingly, over 90% of viewers watch my videos without subscribing. That's okay. It means the content pulls you in. But subscribing helps you stay updated with the next parts. Hit subscribe, and let's create the next video together. Giving advice, correcting, defending. Sometimes, the greatest act of listening is simply to be present, to give space for the feeling to rise, settle, and be honored. Real connection is born when two people dare to meet not as ideas, but as living, feeling beings. In the echo of that meeting, respect and understanding grow. Think for a moment about how people listen in different situations. When two friends, true kindred spirits, sit across from each other, their conversation has a rhythm, a natural back and forth. They finish each other's sentences, nod along, laugh at the same jokes, and pick up on subtle cues. In such moments, both feel safe enough to drop their masks. Carnegie observed that genuine interest in others is the most important quality for getting along. Between kindred spirits, listening becomes effortless, almost joyful. Each person feels valued simply for being themselves. Now picture another scene. People listening to authority. Maybe it's at work, a meeting with the boss, or at a town hall, or even a family gathering with a strong-willed elder. The dynamic shifts. Many listen not to understand, but to agree, to signal respect, or sometimes just to avoid conflict. There are polite smiles, measured responses, careful pauses before speaking. Carnegie warned that, in these moments, the real opinions and feelings are often hidden. People want to be seen as loyal, smart, or reliable, so they suppress disagreement and quietly edit themselves. The conversation becomes less about connection, more about navigating power. Then there are those intense, critical situations, a crisis at work, an argument at home, or a sudden emergency. In these moments, listening changes entirely. Some freeze, unable to hear anything except their own pulse. Others react sharply, interrupting or defending, desperate to be heard above the chaos. Sometimes, a calm voice cuts through, commanding attention, bringing clarity. Carnegie noticed that in such times, the best way to win an argument is to avoid it. Emotions run high. True listening can save relationships, or even lives, but most people are too caught up in their own stress to hear much at all. So what's happening in all these scenes? Carnegie asked, why is it easier to listen to a friend than a rival? Why do we sometimes tune out authority, even while nodding along? Why does pressure make real understanding so rare? The answer, he said, lies in psychological safety. When we feel respected, relaxed, and unthreatened, our brains open up. We can actually hear and process what others say. But when power, fear, or stress enters the room, our instincts shift. We protect ourselves, scan for danger, and listen only for what we need to survive the moment. True listening requires us to feel safe enough to be honest, and brave enough to hear even what we may not like. Carnegie's advice? First, build trust by showing genuine curiosity and warmth. Let people see that you want to understand, not to judge. Second, pause before responding. Give others the gift of feeling heard before you speak. Third, in stressful moments, slow the pace. A deep breath or a calm question can invite real communication, even in a storm. Finally, remember, the goal isn't to win every exchange, but to create space where real understanding can happen. When you do this, people don't just listen to you. They remember you, trust you, and return the gift of being truly heard. Let me turn the spotlight on you. Think for a moment. How do you truly listen? And how do you want to be heard when life puts you to the test? First, imagine this. You're in a suddenly dangerous situation. Maybe it's a heated argument that spirals out of control at home, or a tense moment at work when something goes wrong and everyone looks to you. Your heart pounds. The room feels electric. In these moments, does your voice change? Does it get sharper, louder, more urgent? Or do you freeze up, struggling to find words? Perhaps you notice your body tenses, your hands clench, your mind races. Are you able to listen to others at all? Or do you focus only on your own safety and survival? Do you take charge, trying to calm the storm? Or do you wait, hoping someone else will step in? Carnegie often said, when dealing with people, remember you are dealing not with creatures of logic, but with creatures of emotion. How much does emotion shape your actions when danger, real or emotional, is in the air? Second, consider this. You're locked in a disagreement with someone, a family member, friend, or colleague. Deep down, you know you're right. The facts are on your side. But the other person, maybe out of pride or fear, keeps arguing, bringing up points that don't make sense, even getting personal. How do you handle it? Do you raise your voice, try to win the argument, or patiently repeat your case? Do you walk away, letting them have the last word? Or do you try to find a way to end the conflict peacefully? Maybe you feel frustration bubbling up. Maybe you wonder if being right is really worth the cost to the relationship. Carnegie would ask, is it better to be right or to preserve the connection? How would you strike that balance? Now, I want you to pause and really picture yourself in these moments. When the stakes are high, how do you sound, act, and feel? When you know you're right, but the other person won't budge, do you fight, freeze, or forgive? Maybe you have a story from your own life, a crisis you managed, an argument you regret, or a time when listening or not listening changed everything. Each person reacts differently. Some grow calm and clear, others get defensive, loud, or shut down entirely. There's no single right way, but your answer reveals how you process stress, handle emotion, and value connection. So I ask you now, how would you respond in these situations? Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me about a time when your tone, your words, or your listening changed the outcome, for better or worse. Every experience is unique, and I want to hear yours. Your story, your approach, your example, all of it is valuable. Maybe it will help someone else navigate their own moment of tension. After all, every person will act in their own way, but what matters most is that you take the time to reflect and share. Your voice, your insight, your lessons from life are what make this conversation real. In every conversation, much is spoken without words. Dale Carnegie often reminded his students that true communication is just as much about what you show as what you say. Before you even open your mouth, your posture, your breath, and the way you hold yourself can shape the outcome. How do you use this to your advantage? And how do you read it in others? First, let's talk about breath and posture. When you're nervous, your breath goes shallow, your chest tightens, and your body shrinks. You might hunch your shoulders, avert your gaze, cross your arms, or fidget. But with just a few conscious adjustments, you can send a signal of calm confidence, both to yourself and to everyone watching. Take a slow, deep breath before speaking. Let your exhale be steady. Imagine a string pulling the crown of your head gently upward, aligning your spine. Roll your shoulders back. Unclench your jaw. Uncross your arms. Even if you feel nervous inside, your body tells your brain, I am safe, I am present, I belong here. Carnegie taught, act enthusiastic and you'll be enthusiastic. The body can lead the mind. Second, learn to listen with your eyes. A person's true intentions are often visible before they're audible. When someone tells the truth, their gestures are relaxed, spontaneous, and congruent with their words. They might meet your gaze, their facial muscles stay loose, and their hands move naturally. When someone is hiding something, you might notice stiff movements, forced smiles, glancing away, covering their mouth, touching their neck, or shifting in their seat. Sometimes their words say yes, but their feet point to the door. Psychologists say these micro-expressions, fleeting signs of tension or relief, can reveal authenticity or discomfort in an instant. Carnegie's wisdom here is subtle. Never accuse based on a single gesture, but combine observation with patience. He said, be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise, but also let the other person save face. If you sense a lie or evasion, don't confront directly. Instead, slow the pace, ask clarifying questions, and give the other person space to adjust. Third, how you carry yourself affects your influence in negotiations. When you're trying to win an argument, close a deal, or resolve a conflict, your physical presence matters as much as your words. Sit or stand tall, maintain comfortable eye contact, and keep your gestures open. This doesn't mean being aggressive. In fact, Carnegie believed the best negotiators are those who appear friendly, composed, and genuinely curious. People mirror what they see. If you want honesty, be open. If you want respect, give respect first. Too often, people ignore these signals, focusing only on the right thing to say. But the subconscious is always listening. The difference between a leader and a follower, between being heard and being ignored, is often a matter of posture, tone, and presence. If you find yourself in a tough conversation or an important negotiation, remember, breathe deeply and slowly. Hold yourself with gentle strength. Read not just the words, but the whole person. Don't rush to react. Let your own calm invite others to do the same. Carnegie believed winning friends and influencing people was not about dominating, but about creating the right atmosphere, where truth is safe, respect is mutual, and everyone leaves with dignity. No great truth exists in isolation. Dale Carnegie's wisdom on communication finds strong echoes in the ideas of other great psychologists. Carl Jung, for example, didn't just study dreams and symbols. He saw every conversation as a meeting of two worlds. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Real listening, in his view, is transformative. When you listen without pretense or agenda, you invite change, not only in the other, but also in yourself. Jung believed that to really hear someone, you first have to hear yourself. He taught his students to become aware of their inner responses while in conversation. Am I anxious? Am I defending myself? Or am I open? He observed that many misunderstandings come not from words, but from the shadows of our own psyche, our projections, our unspoken fears, and the stories we bring from the past. He would urge, before you react, check your motives. Are you listening for connection or listening to win? Alexander Strauss, a more modern voice, explored what he called the dialogue of presence. He argued that genuine conversation is impossible without presence, the willingness to put aside distractions and see the person before you as they really are, not just as a character in your own story. Strauss wrote, "We do not listen only with our ears, but with our whole being. Our body, our silence, our patience. These are the instruments of true understanding." He also noted that when people fail to listen, they create invisible barriers. You might sit in the same room, but if one person is checking their phone or thinking about their next argument, true contact never happens. Strauss recommended rituals of attention. Take a breath before responding. Repeat back what you've heard, not to parrot, but to show you value the message. When in doubt, ask, is there more? Often, what's most important is said last. Both Jung and Strauss saw that nonverbal cues are not tricks to decode, but invitations to deeper connection. When someone's posture closes or their voice tightens, it may be a sign of old pain surfacing. A wise listener doesn't rush to correct or comfort. Sometimes, just holding space is the greatest gift. Carnegie would nod in agreement. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. Jung would add, if you listen to the unconscious, it will tell you what you need to know. Strauss would finish, where there is presence, even silence is heard. So, as you move through the world, remember, every conversation is an opportunity for transformation. The more you bring of yourself, honestly and openly, the more others will trust you with their truth. So what does all this teach us about being heard and truly hearing others? First, it's clear that real communication is more than just exchanging words. It's about presence, intention, and respect. Whether you stand across from a friend, a stranger, or someone with whom you disagree, the key is to show up fully, not to impress or to win, but to understand and to be understood. Carnegie's approach and the insights of Jung and Strauss all point to the same lesson. If you want others to listen to you, begin by listening to them, not only to what is said, but to what is meant, felt, or feared. Don't rush to fill the silence. Sometimes, the greatest trust grows in the space between sentences, in the willingness to let someone finish their thought without interruption. To be heard, remember that how you speak is as important as what you say. A calm, steady tone, clear words, and open body language invite attention. If you become defensive or anxious, others will sense it and shut down. Instead, breathe deeply, look people in the eye, and speak with conviction, but also with humility. Equally important, listen for the emotions beneath the facts. When someone repeats themselves, raises their voice, or withdraws, it's a signal. Respond with empathy, not argument. Ask gentle questions, reflect back what you've heard, and let them know you care about their point of view, even if you don't agree. And in those tough moments, arguments, misunderstandings, stressful negotiations, slow down. Take a breath. Remind yourself that no relationship is ever strengthened by winning a conversation, but by creating space for honesty and understanding. If you feel yourself getting triggered, pause. Acknowledge your feelings before you react. Jung would say, the ability to listen is the beginning of wisdom. Carnegie would add, be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise. And Strauss would remind you, presence is the seed of all connection. The truth is, being heard and being seen are gifts you can give as well as receive. Every day, with every interaction, you get to practice. It's not about perfection, but about sincerity. So as you move through your world, remember, the more you listen, the more you'll be listened to. The more you honor others, the more they'll honor your words. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find that the respect you seek from others starts with the respect you give yourself and the space you create for the truth of another. Before we finish, let me leave you with a thought that will shape our next journey together. What if the reason you sometimes feel unheard or misunderstood isn't just about poor listening, but about subtle manipulation you haven't even noticed? What if someone's words, gestures, or silences are carefully chosen to direct your feelings and choices without you realizing it? In our next story, we'll dive deep into the art of spotting manipulation. How do you see through hidden agendas, emotional games, and subtle control, whether in family, friendships, work, or everyday encounters? You'll learn the signals, the psychology, and the tools to protect yourself, stay authentic, and build honest relationships, even when the world tries to push you off balance. If this sounds important to you, subscribe right now so you don't miss the new episode. And remember, every comment you leave here is valuable to me. Your thoughts, your stories, your experiences, they help build a community where real conversation and learning are possible. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for sharing your voice. Stay tuned. The next chapter begins soon, and together, we'll learn how to see what others hope to keep hidden.